this is the development status as I see it. So from the IBM's, well, so I'll run through the IBM Galasa team changes and some documentation changes we've made. I'll talk about Web UI and how that's evolving and a bit about what's next. So we've had Ash and James leave the immediate team, and we've got James, an intern, and Tasneem working in Cairo join the team. Jade, Eamon, and myself are core members of the team still, full-time on it. We've had other contributions from Ian since we last presented this, and Shivam, who is a student working in India. He's been doing some good work on a voluntary basis for us as well, which is a great help. Any contributions greatly appreciated. So let's start with the documentation first. So we had a bit of a problem in that we had some bugs in the UI of the documentation. It was also missing some important features and falling behind the look and feel that some other sites have. I like to think the changes that I'm about to show you have brought us a bit more up to date on that front. We were hosting 4 different sites. They're all linked together with DNS, but because they're 4 sites, we've got 4 sets of overhead, and the way it was all set up was complete overkill for what we need, just a static documentation site. So on top of that, every month or so, we had to raise a ticket against the Linux Foundation to get a certificate renewed, and we would have to migrate it to Linux Foundation owned cloud system anyway at some point. In the meantime, the infrastructure was costing, and it could have been free. So what do we do? Well, firstly, James Taylor did a huge amount of migration of the content, so it worked not in Jekyll that we used to use, but in MKDocs, which was a huge help. And we had this build system before where we had several pipelines leading into sites, but we had the docs site and a preview system where we could see what was going on before we published it, and the main site on the IBM Cloud Code Engine, but we hosted these other ones separately. And we pulled in all of the documentation source into the monorepo. So when you check out the Galasa repo now, it's got docs, and that is what we render, which will make it easier to do things like do a code commit and change the docs at the same time, so it's atomic, and will help us be more efficient in terms of only one PR for getting a change through, that kind of thing. So the build process now, we've not completed this work, but we've got the docs, the Java doc, and the CLI syntax all being built off one pipeline now into one preview site, and that gets published on GitHub Pages now. That's doing the hosting and the lifting for us on that. The REST docs remain self-hosted on this DNS reroute to the IBM infrastructure we've been using in the past. But not too long from now, we hope to pull the REST docs into that, and it will just be part of the documentation. Advantage of that is anything in the one site is searchable, so we end up with search indexes for things like the CLI docs we didn't used to have. I'll demo this quickly. So here's our homepage, Galasa Dev, and you'll see immediately we've got light and dark theme. which is good. We've got the stuff we had before, the about panels, and this is a change. We've got an index of each page of the documentation, so we can flip down here, and when we've got the docs, we have different sections of docs you can open up, jump there, and as you scroll down, you don't lose your place. And we're scrolling down this index here, so that's another good thing. We have next, previous, we didn't used to have that. Better footer, links off to our social. If you hit here, you go into GitHub to edit the document, so straight away you're in the updating the docs, or you can just read it. We haven't enhanced the content overly. It's still the same content, but all the formatting's different. When you read a manager documentation for a manager, it's looking, let's pick a non-trivial manager. I don't know, this one. All the tables look a bit smarter. It's just a better look and feel, I think. We've had good feedback from people that use it so far. So, and if you have any other feedback, that would be great as well. But that's been pretty well received. So that's the first piece. So moving on, what's been changing in the web UI? So this is the Galasa service that we deploy on Kubernetes, and you can delegate the running of tests to it. So anything you can test locally, you can push into the Kubernetes service, run it there, and it will collect statistics and I'll demo that shortly. So we've been concentrating on putting new features behind experimental feature flag settings, which you can turn on and off if you want to see them or not. And then the use cases we're going after are really about having test runs that you can view. Anything that ran on the server, you can view the results for in the UI, and you can dig into what went wrong with the test without downloading all the artifacts to dig in it in an IDE, that kind of thing. We've been looking at internationalization, so we've got German translation nearly ready. We could add more on request. We've got light dark mode support and some other stuff which I can show you now. So this is one of our servers, same welcome page that you may have seen. We've got in settings, there's a new date time format. You can set your own custom date time format, choose which one how you want to show dates, and throughout the rest of the UI it will change as that goes. We have light dark mode. We've got this test runs feature, which is really most of the effort has gone into here, where we can set a time frame for a query, design the table of columns that we want to see and the search criteria, and then we can see the results. So we can go back and refine table design to say, oh, I don't really care who launched the test. So let's go back, and now the request is gone, and you can set sort order and increase the time frame that you look over for the query. Diving into the test, we can see the details of the test, when it ran, that kind of thing. We've got methods that ran as part of the test, something for the run log. I think this was this. So we can look for couch, for example, in the log. We can filter the log to get rid of all the really detailed stuff if we just want to look at the summary. and you'll see that the numbers jump on the line numbers. Download the run log, do case-sensitive searching, that sort of thing. So this is to look at the run log, see why a test failed, and get more detail from it without doing anything else. And then looking at artifacts. So when a test runs, it can elect to save some files away as artifacts, which help in the diagnosis. So they might be extra files that of inputs and outputs that they created or used or got back from something. So you can dive into these things. We've got formatters for JSON artifacts and property artifacts, but mostly if they're not straight text, then we won't be able to display them, but you can download them if you wish. Other features, well, if you click on a method, say this Unix file delete, it runs down to the Unix file delete place in the run log, so you can get to a particular point in the run log. You don't have to search it quite so much. Yeah, so there's the detail about a test. You can also invoke one of these pre-canned queries to say, well, okay, maybe it's not, this test is a good example, but this one that hung, we can say, well, what happened recently to this test? And we can see that this is an outlier. It's passed in a lot in the past, and the most recent one worked, but this one hung, so there's something odd. I can go and investigate that kind of thing. So that's the test runs functionality. Any questions? Okay. We've got a bit more we want to do for this in terms of enhancements and improvements. And I can show some of them now. So one is that we want to show a graph with dots. When you hover over the dots, you get the detail for the test. So you can see generally where the test ran and an indication of the volumes and things like that in a more graphical form. Some people relate to that more than tables. We want to do export of the results into spreadsheet format, that kind of thing. And we're looking at doing queries to get your results relative to the current time, relative to now. So either specify an exact date time range or relative to now duration kind of query. I would say that all of the URLs we use throughout the UI are permalinks. So if you have a query, all of the search criteria are in the URL. So you can share that URL and you will see the exact same query as someone else. And also the run log location and the test, you get a permalink to the test run. So if you want to refer to the test run, now do that in a defect or in a chat session if you're dealing with the problem that's being demonstrated here. There's less of a need to pull out all the data that Galasa has on something and put it into a defect, because you can just use the permalink. So for example, if I'm in this one that hung, I could take this and share it with a colleague, or I could use the copy share link over here. Okay, so that's what we've been doing with the UI. What's next? So we are going to be looking at completing the documentation I discussed earlier, a constant stream of bug fixes, version upgrades to keep up with things, and improvements we've been requested to do. the web UI chasing the diagnose a problem use case and user. And then if we get more time, we'll be doing some other security improvements that we'd like to do. Is there anything we should be adding to the list? Our Kanban board is always open to new requirements being raised if you have any. There are no promises on how fast they'll get done, but it's a good place to put requirements up so we can at least discuss them and see if we can get them scheduled, or seeing if we can get anyone else interested in implementing them.